Ladies and gentlemen, we meet again toward Parashat Truma, and we are confronted with the second half of Sefer Shmot. Second half of Exodus deals with building the Mishkan, building the tabernacle. And we have five parshiot, five sections speaking just about building the tabernacle. It's obviously something of great importance and great significance. But you know what? It was built in the desert so many years ago. And although the Rambam says we have a mitzvah to build a mikdash, to Beit Mikdash, so King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech had this mitzvah, and then later Ezra and Nehemiah had this mitzvah of building the second temple. We haven't yet had the privilege of having the mitzvah of building the third temple, but it is a mitzvah, and a very important mitzvah, that we should all have part in this big mitzvah. However, throughout the years, we learn the details of the details in the parsha. What significance to have these details have for us throughout the generations? There must be something of deep and important significance that every year we have to learn all these details. So I would like to share with you just two details of this parsha. First detail I want to try and understand together with you is the fact that the focal point of the Beit Mikdash was the Aron HaKodesh. And in the Aron HaKodesh were the luchot, the tablets and the broken tablets, and the man and the Mate Aaron, and a few things, but mainly the Torah. And it was covered up by the kaporet, and we had the two kruvim that were on top of it, and that was the central piece of the Kodesh Kodashim. Now, the interesting thing is how we're told is the parsha talks about building it from the inside out. And when Bnei Yisrael actually in Vayakel, they start building it, they build it from the outside in. But now we're talking about from the inside out. We start with this ark. Now, the ark was built from atzei shitim, which means from wood. And it was paneled with gold, both from the inside and covered from the outside with gold. And that was the box. In that were the tablets. And it was closed. It was never opened. It was never opened. So the question that arises is, okay, gold is something you want to look at. You think it's beautiful. So why was it important to cover it from gold from the inside if this is a box which is never going to be opened? That is the question. We're not being stingy here. If that's the mitzvah, so we'll cover it with gold from the inside and from the outside, no problem. But we're trying to understand what's the deeper meaning here. What is the message of significance throughout generations? So there are a few perushim here. First perush, of course, is in the Talmud in Tractate Yuma, and it says there, Talmid Chacham chayav liyot tocho kvaro, which means a Talmid Chacham, a rabbi, his outside has to be golden like his inside is. That means a rabbi has to be careful not only what he feels and what he thinks and what he speaks about internally, but externally, how does he present himself? With the way you present yourself externally has to be in sync with the way your internal world is running. You cannot, the Rambam says quite clearly in Hilchot Teot that we can't be echad bapeh ve'echad balev. You can't say one thing when you really mean a second thing. It's gneva dat. You're stealing you're stealing the people around you, because you have to have integrity, and you cannot have double standards. And that is to teach us that we cannot have double standards. It's having the gold from the inside and from the outside. The Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch has an interesting idea here, which is, let's look at these two materials. There's gold and there's wood. What is special about gold? Gold is very precious and very beautiful, but it's very stable. Gold will always be gold. However, wood is alive, and the wood is developing, and wood has grown from the ground, and wood. So what he's saying is that the Oron HaKodesh, which is the Torah and the Talmidei Chachamim, they have to have these two elements. On the one hand, they have to take the values, the golden values throughout history and throughout tradition, and we have to keep them in perfect, beautiful condition. On the other hand, we have to understand the world. We're living in a changing world, and it's like wood, and we have to adapt ourselves with these beautiful values, but we have to adapt them to a changing world. Nowadays, of course, we have a changing world. We're changing so fast. We have to adapt our golden values to a changing world. And that is Rabbi Shimshon Hirsch, why it has to be from gold and from wood. Finally, Rav Kook, one of the interesting sayings of Rav Kook is Hayashan Yitchadesh, V'achadash Yitkadesh, which means let the old things renew and let the new things be sanctified, become Kodesh. The old things renewing, he's talking about the Torah and the Gemara and the Mishnah. We have to take all the old texts, which are golden, and really brush them up, make them look as beautiful as possible. At the same time, Hachadash Yitkadesh, we have to take the new, we have to take the tree, we have to take the wood, which is changing, and give it sanctification. We have to give it Kedusha. We have to sanctify the new world. So that is one idea about why it has to be gold from inside and outside. I'm taking a few more minutes to look at one more question. We have the Pasha with a detail, which is each of the different elements of the Mikdash were portable, and therefore they were in rings, and in the rings were poles, and the poles, and they put the poles in the rings, and they used to carry it throughout the years and the 40 years in the desert. So the Oren Kodesh was very interesting. It had rings and it had poles, and there was a mitzvah not to take the poles out of the rings. Even when it was standing, you don't take the poles out of the rings. Even in the Beis HaMikdash, when we eventually got to Yerushalayim, and it wasn't going to be portable anymore, still the beams had to be within the rings. Also in the first temple and also in the second temple, the beams have to be in the rings. What is the message throughout generations from this? So again, going to Rav Hirsch, Rav Shimshon Hirsch, looking for the symbolic language here, and he's saying the following: whilst all the other parts of the Mishkan, you take it out, and once so when we have a Mishkan, we have them. When we don't have a Mishkan, we don't have them. The Torah is always portable. That even with the years that we do not have a Mishkan and we don't have a Beit Mikdash, we understand we can still have Torah, because Torah is eternally portable, and it can be taken to any place in the world, and it can be applied anywhere in the world. Torah is always portable, and that's the message. The Chotam Sofer takes it to a different direction. It says the opposite. What are the beams for? The beams are for holding it. So he's saying, who are people who are holding the Torah? The people who are donating money to yeshivot and to Upanot. People who are supporting. The people who are holding it are the people who are supporting the Torah. And saying the beams don't leave the Mishkan. The beams do not leave the Oron. You can't take them out. They are eternally together, which means people who support yeshivot, people who support ulpanot, and people who support shuls and schools and learning of Torah, it is, you're holding on to these beams of the Oren HaKodesh, and they never come out, which means this investment is investment not only for Olam Hazeh, for this world, but for Olam Haba, for the next world. People who support Jewish schools and Jewish shuls and yeshivot and ulpanot in Israel, outside Israel, supporting Torah is a mitzvah that will go with us forever and ever, because the beams are never taken out of the loops. And that is the message according to the Chotam Sofer. Shabbat Shalom.